Hare Krishna. So welcome everyone to our weekly Bhagavad Gita class. Let's start with the Mangalachan prayers. Om Ajnanatimidandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Shvapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Shagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscham Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Pancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaurattishe Namaha Panchatatvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam He Krishna Karuna Sindho Deenabandho Jagatpatim Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostutim Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhano Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priyam Nilachala Nivashaya Nityaya Paramatmane Balabhadra Shubhadrabhyam Jagannathaya Te Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivashadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So we are discussing this chapter 3 of Bhagavad Gita. So Arjuna has posed 4 arguments for not fighting in the first chapter that we have seen. Compassion, no enjoyment, sinful reaction, and destruction of the dynasty. Which means that Arjuna is becoming compassionate towards his family members. That's why he's not ready to fight. That's the first reason. Second reason is he thinks if I kill all my family members, all my kinsmen are dead, even if I win, with whom I will enjoy. I cannot share my happiness with my family members. So what is the point in winning the battle? And third, if I kill my relatives, I will incur sinful reactions. And the fourth one is, if I kill these warriors in the battlefield, their wives and children will be unprotected, and unscrupulous people will exploit the women, and our purity of our lineage will be destroyed, and Varna Shankar will be generated. So our lineage or our dynasty will be destroyed. The purity of the dynasty will be destroyed. So these are the 4 arguments given in the chapter 1. In the chapter 2, Arjuna surrenders unto Krishna. In the 7th sloka, we see Karpanya doshopahata svabhava prichhami tvam dharma sammoda cheta yashreyashan nishchitam bruhitan me shishyasteham sadhimam tam prapannam. Then Krishna starts speaking, and the first concept discussed in Bhagavad Gita, explained by Krishna, is the science of soul or Atma Tattva. So the analysis of body and soul, which is the first step in spirituality. And by this analysis of body and soul, Krishna refuted the compassion argument that all the living entities are soul. So that means they will never die. So whether you fight or do not fight, it does not matter. The soul is always imperishable, and the body will one day, it will automatically die. Even if you do not fight, their body will perish one day. You cannot protect their bodies. So body cannot be protected and soul cannot be destroyed. So you do your duty. So that's the refutation of the compassion argument. Then Arjuna's second argument was no enjoyment. And Lord destroys that by sakam karma. That even if you want material enjoyment, for that also, you have to do your prescribed duty, do your Kshatriya duty. If you do your Kshatriya duty properly, then you will get enjoyment. If you fight and if you win the battle, you will get kingdom. If you lose the battle, you will get heavenly planets. So both way, you are getting material happiness. On the other hand, if you do not fight, and then people will blaspheme you and people will dishonor you and you will incur sinful activity. So even for material happiness, you have to do your prescribed duty. So that is the refutation of the second argument of no enjoyment, that even if you want material enjoyment, you have to do your prescribed duty, so you have to fight. The third argument was that I will incur sinful reactions. So Krishna told that you do everything as Niskam Karma Yoga. Niskam Karma Yoga means doing everything as an offering to the Supreme Lord. So if you do everything as an offering to the Supreme Lord, then there will be no karmic reactions. We will not have to suffer any karma. Okay, because we are doing it for the Supreme Lord. So if you do Niskam Karma Yoga or Buddhi Yoga, you will be unaffected by the sins. So these three arguments are defeated. And then Arjuna speaks that, okay, is there a person who can completely follow this Niskam Karma Yoga? What are the characteristics of such a person? How can I identify such a person? So Krishna explained the different characteristics of such a person who has perfected in the Niskam Karma Yoga. And such a person is called Sthita Pragya. So the qualities of Sthita Pragya is explained. And in the rest of the second chapter, he is unaffected in happiness and distress. He is always self-satisfied, and all those qualities are described. In the beginning of the third chapter, then Arjuna gets a doubt that whether I should do fighting or whether I should not do fighting, action or renunciation. So Arjuna gets this doubt because Krishna, in one of the verses in the second chapter, Krishna told, Durena hi avaram karma. So that means Krishna wanted to mean, Arjuna, keep all the ugra karma aside. So Krishna wanted to mean, do not work for sense gratification. Keep all the sense gratificatory work aside. But Arjuna understood that Durena hi avaram karma, that means I have to be detached from action. I should not perform any karma. So this was the misconception. Krishna wanted to mean, do not do karma for sense gratification. Do everything for the sake of the Lord. But Arjuna understood, I don't have to do any karma. I should not do any karma. Then I will incur sinful reactions. So there was a doubt. And Lord clarified that, no, I am telling you just to avoid the sense gratificatory work. And therefore, this is a very important sloka. In the 9th sloka of the 3rd chapter, Lord says, Yagyarthat karma no nyatra loko yam karma bandhanam tadartham karma kvanteya mukta sangashamachara. So yagyarthat karma no nyatra. So yagya means Vishnu. We have to work for the satisfaction of Vishnu. Otherwise, the work will bind us in karmic reactions and we have to suffer for that. So then Lord explained that there are two ways of self-realization. Okay, in two ways one can reach the self-realized path of self-realization. One is Sankhya Yoga, another is Karma Yoga. So by renunciation also one can attain the self-realization, and by doing action in Krishna consciousness also one can achieve this self-realization. Although there are two paths, Krishna always prescribes this path of Karma Yoga or Bhakti Yoga. So Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga are very similar. It means that do everything as an offering to the Supreme Lord. And there is another path, Sankhya Yoga, in which you have to renounce. You have to be detached from the actions itself. So Krishna analyzed two test cases. That first one, that Arjuna, first let's consider that you are not qualified for this Sankhya Yoga or Jnana Yoga. If you are not qualified for Jnana Yoga, and if you do Jnana Yoga, then you will be called a Mithyachari. When you will be a pretender or cheater, and you have to suffer for that. So in the immature state, when you are not so exalted, you should not do karma tyag, or you should not renounce your activities, and you should not perform this Jnana Yoga. Otherwise, you will be categorized as a Mithyachari. Now let's consider the other case. Suppose, Arjuna, you are qualified for Jnana Yoga. In that case also, you should not perform Jnana Yoga. Why? Because if you perform Jnana Yoga Jnana Yoga, performing Jnana Yoga means you are renouncing your work. You are not performing your duty. Like a Kshatriya will not perform Kshatriya duty. That is the Jnana Yoga. So if you do not perform your duty and you are in a leadership position in the society, by following your example, normal people will also abandon their activity. And thus, everyone will fall down. So a person who is mature and who is situated in the Atmaram state is eligible to perform Jnana Yoga. But even if he is eligible to perform Jnana Yoga, he is not recommended to perform Jnana Yoga because it will disturb others. And Krishna gives the example of Janak Maharaj. Janak Maharaj is qualified to perform Jnana Yoga. Still, he is performing Karma Yoga because common people will follow their examples. Yad jad acharati shreshthas tatta deve tarojana sajat pramanam kurute lokas tadanu vartate. So, even if you are qualified, you have to do Karma Yoga to set example for others. So in both cases, you are either qualified or not qualified, you have to perform Karma Yoga. So thus, Arjuna's doubt is clarified that whether I should fight or not, the answer is you should fight. You should always do your duty. You should do Karma Yoga. Okay. And in this regard, Krishna has also answered the fourth argument of Arjuna. In the first chapter, it was destruction of the dynasty. So Arjuna was thinking, if I fight, these warriors will be killed and their wives will be unprotected and then they will be exploited and then the dynasty will be destroyed. The purity of our lineage will be destroyed. This was the Arjuna's line of thought. But that is wrong. Krishna reverted that. Arjuna, if you do not fight, people will follow your example and they will abandon their activities and thus they will fall down. So Krishna has reverted the Arjuna's logic and Krishna has proven that if you do not fight, the dynasty will be destroyed. You will become the reason for Varna Shankar. So therefore you should fight. So now all the four arguments are answered. And then this verse we discussed last time, where Krishna says how to perform this Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga we have to perform, that is okay. But how to perform this? Mai sarvani karmani sanyasya chetasam nirashir nirmamo bhutva yuddhasva vigatajvara. Therefore, O Arjuna, surrendering all your works unto me with full knowledge of me, without desires for profit, with no claims to proprietorship, and free from lethargy, fight. So we have to do Karma Yoga by surrendering all our activities to Krishna. So that is the prescription. If we do not surrender our activities to Krishna, then Karma Yoga cannot be performed. And now Krishna elaborates this point. Ye me matamidam nityam anutishtanti manava Shraddhavanto nusuyanto muchyante tepi karmavi. Those persons who execute their duties according to my injunctions and who follow these teachings faithfully without envy become free from the bondage of fruitive activities. So now Krishna is telling the benefits of following his prescription. Krishna has shown that there are two paths, Jnana Yoga and Karma Yoga, and Krishna recommended this Karma Yoga. So Karma Yoga means whatever we do, we have to link Supreme Lord with that. If we are a student, we are studying, then we have to think, okay, I'm studying for Krishna. Whatever I will earn, I will give a percentage for propagating the mission of Krishna, propagating the message of Bhagavad Gita. So like that. And if we have any talents in particular field, like we can draw, we can sing, or anything, we are expert in some fields, then we have to utilize that talent in Krishna's service. So by utilizing our talents and our money, which is earned in Krishna's service, we are getting purified from the karma. If we utilize those things in our sense gratification, then we are generating karma and we have to suffer for that karma. But with the same talents, if we serve Krishna, then we are becoming free from these karmic reactions. So therefore, Krishna is telling one becomes free from the bondage of fruitive activities by following this prescription. Ye tvad abhyasuyanto nanutishtanti me matam sarvajnana vimudham stan vidhi nastana chetasaham. But those who out of envy disregard these teachings and do not follow them regularly are to be considered bereft of knowledge, befooled and ruined in their endeavors of perfection. So Krishna is clearly telling, sometimes people think that, oh, why do I need Bhagavad Gita? I'm happy in this life. I do not need anything. I don't need any spiritual education. But Krishna is telling here that who disregard these teachings, means they do not perform karma yoga. They do everything for their satisfaction, their enjoyment. Ultimately, what happens? That they are bereft of knowledge, befooled and ruined in their endeavors of perfection. So they try to become happy, but they will never become happy. This is the statement of the God. Krishna in Bhagavad Gita is telling, if you do not follow the prescription of the Lord, you cannot become happy in this material world. Because this world is created by the Supreme Lord and He knows it very well how to become happy. Nobody can become happy without following the prescription of the Lord. We may have billions of dollars, but we will not become happy unless we follow this path of Karma Yoga. We will not be satisfied in the heart, and there will be problem after problem coming into our life because we are accumulating so much karma. We think that we will be able to enjoy, but problems will keep on coming in our life and it will disturb us. It will not let us enjoy whatever we have accumulated. We may accumulate so much wealth, but we will not be able to enjoy unless we are free from karma. A free person can enjoy. A person who is bound by the ropes of karma, how can he enjoy? So that is the prescription given. Sadrisham cheshtate swasya prakriter jnanavanapi prakritim yanti bhutani nigraha kim karishyati. Even a man in knowledge acts according to his own nature, for everyone follows the nature he has acquired from the three modes. What can suppression accomplish? So one should not suppress one's nature, just like Arjuna, you have this Kshatriya nature, so utilize that in Krishna's service. Utilize that in Lord's service. So Krishna came to this world with a purpose, three purposes, right? Krishna describes in Bhagavad Gita. In the next chapter, we will see. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha duskritam dharma samsthapanarthaya. To save the pious who are devoted to the Supreme Lord, and to annihilate the miscreants, and to establish dharma. Just like Pandavas and all the kings who are on the side of the Pandavas, they are pious. And Lord came to protect them. And all the kings who are on the side of the Kauravas, they are impious and they will be destroyed. And Lord will establish dharma. So these are the three purposes. And Arjuna has an important role to play. This Kurukshetra war is to be fought and all the irreligious kings are to be killed. And Arjuna knows how to kill as a Kshatriya. So Arjuna has to utilize this talent in Krishna's service. And he should not repress artificially. That means he has a Kshatriya nature, but Arjuna is very much attached to the family members. And therefore he is not ready to fight. So this attachment should not come in between like as an obstacle to execute our duty. We have to execute our duty. Attachment should not become an obstacle. If there was an enemy, Arjuna would be happy to fight. But now, on the opposite side, there are his own family members. Therefore, he is not ready to fight. Attachment is coming in between as an obstacle to perform duty. So whatever duty we have to perform without any attachment. Like spiritual duties, chanting, reading, hearing the message of Bhagavad Gita every day, chanting the holy names of the Lord, offering bhoga to the deities and accepting only Krishna Prasad, associating with the sadhus, visiting holy dhams. So these are our spiritual duties. And we have to execute that. No attachment should come. Or material attachment, sometimes we get materially attached and we think, okay, it is okay to not chant today. I can neglect my spiritual duties. But by neglecting the spiritual duties, we are creating sufferings for us in the future. Then sometimes we will blame the Lord that I have not done any sinful activities in this life consciously. So why bad things are happening to me? Why bad things happen to good people? We start complaining like that. So bad thing does not mean that I murder someone. Bad thing means non-Krishna conscious things are bad. If you do non-Krishna conscious things, that will generate karma. and you have to suffer for that. As simple as that. So that is the whole message of Bhagavad Gita. So whatever nature we have got and whatever talents we have to utilize that in Krishna's service. That is the Karma Yoga. And the whole third chapter explains this Karma Yoga. Indriyashendriyarthyarthe raga dvesho vyavasthito tayorno vashamagachet tohasya paripanthini. There are principles to regulate attachment and aversion pertaining to sense and sense objects. One should not come under the control of such attachment and aversion because they are stumbling blocks on the path of self-realization. If we want to become advanced in the path of self-realization, we should not become attached or averse to something. Whatever duty is given, we have to perform. Sometimes we have to force our mind. Our mind is not controlled, and therefore mind will not be very much interested to perform the spiritual activities. But we have to force our mind. We have to perform the spiritual duties, whatever we have. Shreyan swadharma biguna paradharma swanushtitat swadharme nidhanam shreya paradharma Vaibhava. It is far better to discharge one's prescribed duties even though faultily than another's duties perfectly. Destruction in the course of performing one's own duty is better than engaging in another's duties. For to follow another's path is dangerous. So Arjuna, you have got this nature of Kshatriya, and now in the battlefield, because you are attached to the family members, you are telling, I will not fight and I will be acting as a Brahmana. I will go to the forest and do tapasya. But you will not be happy by that because your nature is Kshatriya. Now, because of attachment to family members, you are telling, I will not fight. But you will not be happy as a Brahmana because that is not your nature. So therefore, whatever nature we have, we do not have to change that nature, but we have to utilize that nature in Krishna's service. So that is the message given. Now Arjuna understands, all the 4 questions are answered, and Arjuna is completely convinced that, okay, I have to fight. Now Arjuna thinks that why I was foolishly thinking that I will not fight, why I became attached to the family members. Krishna, whatever you said, I also know these things. I have also learned this kind of things in my Gurukul during my childhood days. I also have this scriptural knowledge, but somehow I have forgot that knowledge. So why does this happen? Arjuna is asking this question. This is a very important question. Many people ask this question, that we know what is right and what is wrong. But sometimes when we have to take an important decision, although we know this is right, somehow we get attracted towards the wrong. So what is the reason? What is the dragging force which takes us to the wrong path, even if we know that this is the wrong path and something else is right? So Arjuna is asking. Arjuna uvacha atha kena prayuktoyam papam charati purusha anichannapi varshneya baladiva niyojita. Arjuna said, O descendant of Vrishni, means Krishna. Krishna is a descendant of Vrishni Vamsa. By what one is impelled to sinful acts? By what one is impelled to sinful acts? Even unwillingly, as if engaged by force. So there is an unknown, invisible force which forces us towards the sinful activities, although we know what is sinful and what is pious, what is dharma, what is adharma. We know, but sometimes we are helplessly attracted towards the adharma, path of adharma. So what is that factor which drives us towards sinful activities? Now, very important answer. The Supreme Lord answers. What is that? Shri Bhagavan uvacha Kama esha krodha esha rajo guna samudbhava mahashana mahapapma vidyena miha vairinam. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, it is lust only, Arjuna, which is born of contact with the material mode of passion and later transformed into wrath, and which is all devouring sinful enemy of this world. So this is lust. Now this lust does not only mean sexual desire. Lust means any material desire, any strong material desire is lust. When we have a very strong desire for something, we lose discrimination. We want that and we become so engrossed that I want that. Then we forget about what is dharma and what is adharma. Even we are we are ready to take a wrong path. So this lust or kama, when this gets into our head, then we lose discrimination and we become practically blind, and all the knowledge is gone, and we are helplessly attracted towards the wrong path. So this is lust, and this is born out of contact with the material mode of passion. Out of mode of passion. This is not, there are three modes, sattva, raja, tama. So this is characteristics of rajoguna. Sattva guna means mode of goodness, person who is calm and composed, knowledgeable, happy. But rajoguna means calm, very strong desire for some material things. And that leads to loss of intelligence. And then we take the wrong decision. And then later we suffer for that tremendously. Momentarily, due to this lust or strong material desire, we lose our discrimination and we take a wrong decision and we suffer tremendously in the future. So that is the fate of a living entity who is afflicted by this lust. And Krishna further explains about the nature of this lust. Dhumena vriyate vanhir jatha darshamalena cha yathalavena vrito garvas tatha tene damavritam. So this lust can be, lust is basically covering our intelligence. It is like, it is covering our knowledge and it is covering our eyes, and we are not able to see what is right and what is wrong. So this covering can be of different degrees for different living entities. Just like for the pure devotees who are very, very pure, they have no lust, almost no lust. And for some living entities, they may have a lot of lust or strong material desires. Their covering can be very, very thick. So this covering of lust can be very thin also, very thick also. If the covering is very thick, that means we are very much afflicted by this lust and we have completely lost our intelligence. If the covering of lust is very thin, then it is partially covering our intelligence and we have not lost our intelligence completely. So there can be different degrees. And Krishna is giving the example, just like a fire is covered by smoke, just like a mirror is covered by dust, just like an embryo is covered by the womb. Similarly, lust is covering the consciousness or intelligence of a living entity. Avrityam jnanametena jnanino nityavairina kama rupena kvanteya dushpurena nalena cha. Thus, the wise living entity's pure consciousness becomes covered by his eternal enemy in the form of lust, which is never satisfied and which burns like fire. So there are very important characteristics of lust described in this verse. The living entity means every jiva. We are all jivas, human beings, animals, bird. Everyone is living entity, means their soul, individual soul. So every living entity has a pure consciousness. But due to this conditioned body and due to staying in the material world for a longer period of time, our consciousness is covered by lust. Therefore, we are not able to see. And that is the reason we are not attracted to Krishna. We should be attracted to Krishna naturally, just like an iron particle is attracted towards a magnet. Just like iron is attracted towards a magnet naturally, similarly, a living entity should be attracted to God. But why we are not attracted? Why we don't feel that? Because that iron particle is covered by mud. If the iron particle is covered by mud, then it will not be attracted by the magnet. So similarly, this lust is covering the living entity, and therefore he does not feel any attraction for the Supreme Lord, and he feels attraction for the different glitterings of this material world, or is getting attracted to the illusory energy of the Supreme Lord, Maya. And when we get attracted towards Maya, then we suffer tremendously. So that is happening here. The living entity's pure consciousness is covered by this lust. And this lust is never satisfied. Lust means a strong desire to satisfy our senses, and it is never satisfied. Just like whatever desire we have, suppose some food items we like to eat. It is not that if we just eat once, that will be satisfied. It will be satisfied temporarily, but again, it will be the demand will increase. The more we feed our senses, the demand will increase. It is just like when we pour clarified butter in fire. The fire will not be extinguished by that clarified butter or ghee, but it will increase the flame. So similarly, our senses have some demands, and that is lust. Senses are demanding. Eyes are demanding, give me this, I want to see this. Our tongue is demanding, give me this food item. Okay, our genitals are demanding sexual activity. So different senses are demanding different material things. And once we feed, it will not be satisfied, but its demand will increase, just like pouring ghee into the fire. So it is never satisfied and it will burn like fire. And the living entity will become more unsatisfied or dissatisfied. The more we satisfy the senses, we become more dissatisfied. And then we become more restless. And this is what happens with addiction also. Suppose somebody tries to take liquor for the first time. So after some time, he will develop some kind of tolerance. And to have the same feeling, he has to intake more. So he becomes more and more dependent on that. The demand increases. So this is the nature of lust. Any strong material desire to enjoy this world increases if we try to satisfy. So therefore, instead of feeding it again and again, we have to feed it minimally. That okay, in a regulated way, but then we have to serve the Supreme Lord. By serving the Supreme Lord, we will be actually satisfied. But by feeding the senses, by supplying the demands of the senses, their demands will increase more and more. It will infinitely increase. So we should not infinitely satisfy the senses. We should satisfy the senses in a regulated way. It's not like we should not eat at all. We should eat in a regulated way. And we should also do recreation in a regulated way. But that should not be contradicting our scriptures. There are 4 regulative principles for that. We can satisfy the senses, but follow these 4 regulative principles. We should not go outside the jurisdiction of these 4 regulative principles, that no meat eating, no gambling, no intoxication, no illicit sex. You can satisfy your senses, but follow these 4 regulative principles. Just to satisfy our tongue, we cannot kill some animals. That is not recommended in the scriptures. We will be getting sinful reactions and we have to suffer for that. So that is no meat eating, no gambling. To earn more and more money, we should not gamble. We should earn money in a legitimate way. No intoxication. We should not take any kinds of alcohol or drugs, cigarettes, and any other intoxicants we should not take to artificially give pleasure to the body. Then we become more and more dependent on that. And we lose our consciousness. Our discrimination power reduces in that state of consciousness. And we should not do illicit sex. Yes, our genitals are demanding, but you are allowed to perform these sexual activities. Scriptures allow that, but that should be within marriage, not outside marriage. So these are the 4 regulations we have to follow. Sometimes people go to any extent to satisfy their senses, not caring about these 4 regulative principles. But the scripture says you are allowed to satisfy your senses in a regulated way. Just follow these 4 regulative principles. Otherwise, you are in danger. So this is like the Lakshman Rekha. These 4 regulative principles. If you cross that Lakshman Rekha, then you are in tremendous danger. Anything can happen to you. Any sufferings can be allotted to you. You cannot complain that, what did I do? Why bad things are happening to me? Anything can happen if you do not follow the 4 regulative principles. And for sure, we will not become happy. By breaking the regulative principles, people are trying to become happy, but they will never become happy. That is the law of God. Now, Krishna speaks more about this lust. So lust is our enemy, right? Our enemy in the form of lust. Then Krishna will give us some tips and tricks how to defeat this enemy. So if we have to defeat some enemy, we have to be knowledgeable about that. We have to know him we have to know the moves of the enemy very meticulously, then we can defeat. So Krishna is describing this enemy called lust so that we can defeat. Indriyani mano buddhir asyadhishtanam uchyate etir vimohya yesha Yanam abrita dehinam asya adhishtanam. Adhishtanam means residing place. So where does this kama or lust stay? The senses, the mind, and the intelligence are the sitting places of this lust. Through them, lust covers the real knowledge of the living entity and bewilders him. So lust can stay in the senses, in the mind, and the intelligence. So lust in the senses means the demands of the senses. Eyes are demanding, ears are demanding, and tongues are demanding. And our working senses also can demand, like genitals and hands and legs. So all these things, different senses we have, 5 working senses and 5 knowledge acquiring senses. So all the senses can demand something very strongly, that is called kama in the level of senses. Kama can also become reside in the level of the mind. In mind, we have some strong material desire for something, that I want to achieve this, I want to go to this place, or something which is not connected to Krishna, which is completely a material desire, but very strong material desire. And it can be also in our intelligence. Okay, our intelligence is polluted by this, and therefore we are not feeling we are feeling it is okay to perform non-Krishna conscious activity. So when our intelligence is covered by lust, then we lose discrimination. We feel it is okay to perform non-Krishna conscious activity. But when our intelligence becomes purified, then we hesitate to perform non-Krishna conscious activity. Just like a thief, when he steals for the first time, he is very much hesitant to steal. But after doing it 100 times, that hesitation goes away. That means the intelligence is polluted now. The intelligence will not retaliate, and it will not discriminate between the good and bad things. So this senses, mind, and intelligence are the sitting places of the lust. Through them, lust covers the real knowledge of the living entity and bewilders him. So now we know where are the sitting places of the lust. Now how to drive away lust from these sitting places. Now Krishna will describe that. Tasmatram indiyanyado niyamya varatarshava papmanam prajahiyenam jnana vijnana nasanam. Therefore, O Arjuna, best of Bharatas, in the very beginning, curb this great symbol of sin by lust, by regulating the senses, and slay this destroyer of the knowledge and self-realization. So the senses, mind, and intelligence, in these 3 stages, lust resides. So first of all, we have to control the senses. Controlling the senses means, again, the 4 regulative principles. These 4 regulative principles are taken from Sastras, Srimad Bhagavatam, Tapo, Shaucham, Daya, Shaktam. And these regulative principles are based on some principles of dharma. Like no meat eating means you are preserving the dharmic principle of mercy. Mercy or daya is dharmic principle. When we eat meat, we kill other animals, we violate that principle, dharmic principle. So that is daya. Tapo, Shaucham, Daya, Sattam. In the Srimad Bhagavatam it comes. Tapa means austerity. When we take intoxicants in our body, our austerity is destroyed. When we do illicit sexual activities, our cleanliness, Saucham, is destroyed. Tapo, Saucham, Daya, Satyam. When we do gambling, our truthfulness is destroyed. So these 4 regulative principles are based on 4 dharmic principles of Tapo, Saucham, Daya, Satyam. Tapa means austerity, Saucham means cleanliness, Daya means mercy, and Satyam means truthfulness. So we have to regulate the senses, means we have to follow these 4 regulative principles. No meat eating, no gambling, no intoxication, no illicit sex. Now there is a hierarchy between these senses, mind, and intelligence. What is that hierarchy? Indriyani paranyahur indriyabhyo param mana manasastu para buddhir yo buddhi parasastu saha. So indriyani paranyahur, the working senses are superior to dull matter, mind is higher than the senses, intelligence is higher than the mind, and he, the soul, is even higher than the intelligence. So dull matter means the non-living things. Okay, so they are at the lowest level. They do not have any consciousness. So dull matter is at the lowest level. Then higher than that are the senses. So for an example, suppose we are tasting a gulab jamun through our tongue. So this gulab jamun is not a conscious thing. This is a dull matter. Now this gulab jamun is being enjoyed by the sense called tongue. So this tongue is enjoying the gulab jamun. That means the senses are superior to dull matter. Senses enjoy the dull matter. So dull matter, then the senses. And now the mind is higher than the senses. Mind is controlling all the senses. The senses are working under the control of the mind. So first some desire comes to your mind that I want to eat that. And then tongue becomes activated. It starts salivating like that. So mind is controlling all the senses, right? And mind is controlled by the intelligence. Suppose a person, the mind of the person says that let's have alcohol today. But if the person has a very pure intelligence, intelligence will immediately command mind, no. Although you want to do this, this is not allowed. You should not do this. So then intelligence will control the mind that no, although you desire, I do not approve this. And if the person is having a great determination, then he will not perform that activity. So intelligence can control the mind can control the senses, and senses are enjoying the dull matter. So dull matter, then senses, then mind, then intelligence. And even higher than the intelligence is the soul. And he or the soul is even higher than the intelligence. So the soul is controlling even the intelligence. So there is a body chariot analogy given where let me show you that picture. So the body chariot analogy says that there are in a chariot there are suppose 5 horses. So these 5 horses are compared to the senses. Yeah, this picture. So here we can see this is called a body chariot analogy. So 5 horses are 5 senses. You can see eyes, nose, ear, touch or skin and tongue. So these 5 horses are compared to 5 senses. Then ropes are compared to mind. Ropes are controlling the horses. Similarly, mind is controlling the senses. This driver is compared to intelligence. So driver is controlling the ropes. So similarly, intelligence is controlling the mind. And the passenger is the soul. So soul is directing the driver. Okay. So similarly, the soul is actually soul, or the passenger is directing the driver. So similarly, soul is directing the intelligence. And this chariot, the chariot is compared to the body. So this is the body chariot analogy. And we can also understand this hierarchy from that. So this is the sequence. So first dull matter, then senses, then mind, intelligence, and soul. And in the middle 3 layers, the senses, mind, and intelligence, lust can be there. So now how to drive away? First, in the lowest level, you control the senses by following the 4 regulative principles. And on the topmost level, on the level of the intelligence, what we should do? Evam buddhve param buddhva samstavyamatmanamatmana jahi shatrum mahabaho kama rupam durashadam. Thus, knowing oneself to be transcendental to the material senses, mind, and intelligence, O mighty armed Arjuna, one should steady the mind by deliberate spiritual intelligence and Krishna consciousness, and thus by spiritual strength conquer this insatiable enemy known as lust. So on the level of the senses, we should follow the 4 regulative principles to conquer lust. On the level of the intelligence, we have to make our intelligence strong, and we have to make our intelligence spiritual. How can we make our intelligence spiritual? By reading the scriptures. When we read the scriptures, what happens? Till now, our material intelligence is driving our chariot. Till now, our material intelligence is driving our chariot. But when we read Bhagavad Gita and internalize the teachings of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna sits in this place of intelligence. Krishna personally sits, just like Krishna directed the chariot of Arjuna. If we accept the teachings of Bhagavad Gita, So Krishna becomes our chariot driver. And then automatically Krishna can control the mind or the ropes. And then the senses also will be controlled in due course. So that is the secret. By reading scriptures and by internalizing the teachings of the scriptures, we have to make our intelligence spiritual. That means we have to make our intelligence Krishna conscious. And then automatically the mind will be controlled. When we become Krishna conscious, the first symptom of becoming Krishna conscious is we start chanting the holy names of the Lord. The Lord explains further in the subsequent chapters that what is Krishna consciousness? Manmana bhava madbhakto madjaji mam namaskuru mami vaishyashi satyam te pratijane priyoshini. So manmana bhava madbhakto means always think of me, chant my glories, chant my holy name, become my devotee, worship me, offer obeisance unto me. So these are the Krishna conscious activities. By doing these Krishna conscious activities, our intelligence becomes spiritual and mind becomes controlled. So mantra, Hare Krishna Maha Mantra means, the word mantra means man plus tra. Man means mind and tra means to deliver. So mantra means something which delivers the mind or which protects the mind from this lust. So on the level of the senses, we follow the 4 regulative principles: no meat eating, no gambling, no intoxication, no illicit sex. And on the level of the mind, we chant the mantra, Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. And on the level of the intelligence, we read Sastri or the scriptures. So by doing these 3 activities, we can detox lust from all, like we can drive away lust from all the 3 levels. So this is an important lesson we have learned today from Bhagavad Gita. So we have seen in today's discussion that how Krishna answered all 4 arguments of Arjuna. And then Arjuna is asking this question, what is that force which forces me to do sinful activities? Although I know what is right and what is wrong, I know what is dharma and adharma. What is that force by which I am forced to do sinful activities? So Krishna answered that that force, unknown force, is lust. And Krishna explained different characteristics of lust and different residing places of lust. Lust is never satisfied. If we satisfy the demands of the senses, it will aggravate more. Just like itching, if we scratch the itching, it will be aggravated more. So how to control? We have to tolerate the urges. And we should not infinitely scratch. We have to tolerate and apply medicine. And this Krishna consciousness, chanting holy names, these are like applying medicines. And we have to tolerate also. Our senses are demanding, but we have to think, no, I should not indiscriminately satisfy my senses. Just like our senses may demand, let me eat anything outside. Let me eat non-vegetarian items also. But we should think, no, this is not correct. We should only eat vegetarian items, that too to the Supreme Lord. We have to offer Supreme Lord and then we have to take prasadam. So in this way, although our senses may demand, but we have to regulate our senses and control our senses. So then Lord discussed about the 3 residing places of lust, the senses, the mind, and intelligence, and how to drive away lust from all the 3 levels. On the level of the senses, we have to control 4 regulative principles. On the level of the mind, chant the holy names. And on the level of the intelligence, read the scriptures of Bhagavad Gita. So by that, we can be free from lust. And once we are free from lust, we will always take the correct decision and our life will be blissful. Because everything will be clear before our eyes. Now we are afflicted by lust. We are getting attracted to something dangerous. We are not getting attracted to Krishna. We are getting attracted to Maya, and Maya will give us sufferings. So when we become lust free, we can see what is right and what is wrong, and easily we will be able to follow the right path. So that is the teaching of the 3rd chapter. In the 4th chapter, we'll start discussing about transcendental knowledge. Thank you very much, everyone, for attending this session. Any questions on any of the topics on today's discussion or from previous topics?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes, please.
Yes, you were telling that the things we eat without giving it bhoga, that's dull matter.
Mm-hmm.
So if we give that bhoga, so then what stage does it reach us?
So see, the bhoga means whatever food items we are taking, it is by default dull matter. It is not conscious. So there are difference between the living entities and non-living entities. Non-living entities does not have soul. The living entities have soul. Just like humans, animals, they have souls. Therefore, they are classified as living entities. But this food stuff and there are chair, table like that, they are non-living things. But when you offer that to Krishna, it becomes spiritualized. When we offer that to Krishna and Krishna accepts that bhoga, it becomes prasad. It is not a ordinary dull matter. Now it has become spiritualized. Everything is energy of the Supreme Lord. The dull matter is also energy of the Supreme Lord, and the conscious living entities are also energy of the Supreme Lord. So Supreme Lord has two kinds of energies, Antaranga Shakti and Bahiranga Shakti. So this dull matter is Bahiranga Shakti. In the 7th chapter, there is a verse for that. Bhumi rapona lobayu khammano buddhire vacha ahankar itiyam me vinna prakritirashtadha apareya mitastvannam prakritim viddhi me param jiva bhutam mahabaho jayadam dharyate jagat. So Lord says, both are my energies, the living entities and the non-living entities. So both are Lord's energy. But if the dull matter is not utilized in Krishna's service, it stays dull. But when it is utilized in Krishna's service, it becomes spiritualized. And when we take that, we get nourishment of the body also, and we get spiritual advancement also. We get nourishment of the soul also. So that's the thing. Is it clear, Kaushiki?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, so we can stop here and we'll continue chapter 4 of Bhagavad Gita from the next class. Meanwhile, if you have missed any classes, you can also watch the YouTube playlist that is given in the description of our group. And if you have any questions in any point of time, you can just text me in WhatsApp and I will get back to you. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.